Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Ryan here. So today I'll be continuing what if Izuku or Deku had all for one. So let's begin. So before we start, special shout out to all of these people who commented in the last video. Now, let's begin with the story. 3 years now have passed since Izuku Yagi had gone missing from his home one Friday night. Izuku would now be 12 years old since it was his birthday. The Yagi still haven't given up hope of finding Izuku, but for the most part, everyone else that wasn't directly connected to him in some way had given up hope. Endeavor, Nizu, Naita, and Detective and Recovery Girl and Aizawa haven't given up hope either, and have kept their ears and eyes open for any new information, but haven't heard of anything about him. The Bakugos and Todorokis haven't given hope up either, but they didn't do anything to help in case due to not being heroes, so they had to leave it to everyone else, which saddened them. What saddened Izumi though the most was that the public had discovered somehow that she was the daughter of All Might and Grand Tornado. Due to the reporters getting pictures of the three of them one day, the reason this saddened Izumi was that people learned of Izuku disappearance and only cared more about him being gone due to him being related to All Might and Grand Tornado. However, up to that point, no one cared much about him, which showed Izumi more of how wrong she was to treat her brother like she did. Izumi, Shoto, and Katsuki have all attended therapy and have gotten better with time. The school was closed down and the students sent to new school due to what the school did. It was decided that the school would be destroyed since no teacher wanted to be hired at that school since it was that bad, and they feared its name on their resume would hurt them. The public though did not learn of the reasons why Izuku had disappeared, since some officials in the government decided to cover up All Might and Green Tornado child neglect, since it was deemed that it would troublesome if criminals were inspired due to their actions. As such, Izuku ran away due to neglect, and physical harm was kept as simply him disappearing for unknown reason publicly, with only those involved initially in the case knowing the full truth, since the case regarding the school was sealed by said government officials, which sealed any evidence of the harm Izuku came under at that school. Though the Yagi's family never learned who ordered it, Nezu has suspicions that it was the Hero Commission that had gotten involved to protect the number one hero reputation, since they feared it would inspire villains and Izuku was only quirkless in their eyes, so they didn't care about him. Izumi had also started her training and started adapting to hold one for all. All Might decided that he couldn't wait forever, so he gave the quirk up, but Izumi made him a deal. She would hold into the quirk until a year or so before UA starts. This way Izumi could slowly strengthen her body up to more prepared to take the quirk, and it would also leave more time for them to find Izuku before transferring it to him. If they found him before UA started, then the quirk would be offered to Izuku instead of Izumi, since she wanted him to have the chance to become a hero like he always dreamed of. Though unknown to the Yagas, Izuku was already training to be hero and was far ahead of her in multiple categories. Anyway, outside of starting her physical training for becoming the 9th user of One for All, Izumi has also started training with Bakugo and Todoroki, who both have leveled out with their egos and attitudes. Over the years, due to the therapy and anger management, Izumi and the two others have even taken to doing a lot of community service outside of their daily routines because they found enjoyment in doing it, and some of the community services helped with physical training. For example, they had located a beach called Dagoba Municipal Beach Park, which was turned into a junkyard due to trash washing up on the beach and illegal dumping by other people. The city had fallen behind and the beach was abandoned since no one wanted to put the work into to cleaning it. That is how one day Izumi found herself sitting on a half-clean beach with Bakugo and Todoroki about 6 months after Izuku's 12th birthday, and the marking of him being gone for 3 years. Do you think he will ever forgive us if we do find him? Bakugo thought out loud. Both of the other two didn't have an answer really. We can only hope that he will forgive us, but we also need to consider that the fact that he will hold resentment toward us and not want anything to do with us. If he is like that, we will have to take it slowly and work his walls down slowly over time, which could take up years, but I refuse to give up, Izumi said with determination tone, and the two boys nodded their heads and agreed to not give up either. Soon they got back to work on cleaning the beach. While they were doing it, that though there was were dark forces moving in the world, preparing for an chaotic future that none of them realized about, but it would also make the past come crashing into the future far quicker than anyone would realize. In a lab, Doctor, we secured the resources that you requested, stated the man who looked like he was made of mist. The doctor nodded his head and thanked the man. Good job. Now it's time we start pushing our plans forward, but I think it will be good to do a test run for first variation of my project, stated the doctor who was sitting at the computer. The mist man seemed confused on the test run. Sir, wouldn't that alert the heroes of our presence and bring the attention of our group and start making them seeking us out and try to find us? Asked the man, and the doctor nodded his head. Indeed, that is why we will release the creature in America so it can be tied back to us here in Japan. By the time they did make a connection, it would likely be a few years, which by then our project and goals will be in full swing, and at that point it won't matter since we will have the entire country of Japan government after us, since we do plan to kill symbol of peace and whoever the ninth user is after all, stated the doctor, who laughed. The mist man nodded his head before leaving the room to take care of the ward the doctor had found years ago. The mist man never knew why the doctor had picked this child up, but didn't care since he was required to obey orders from the doctor, since he was programmed to listen to the doctor or the master, since he was blood-bound to them by All for One when he was created as one of the first successful high-end gnomos after all. After the mistman left the room, the doctor turned to look at the tubes that were all against the walls. Soon I will finish what All for One started. And those years ago, though I could never understand why he decided to disappear over a decade ago, there is no way the yellow muscle head had actually killed Master in that fight 12 years ago. I refuse to believe it. Though the doctor started working again on his project that he started after the disappearance of his master All for One. The doctor had discovered the way to combine multiple quirks into a human body by taking quirks from other people and forcing them into another person. As such, their creature were born. Though my project is doing good, it's still far short from master creation like Kurogiri and Gigantomachia, who were created via his actual quirk. I'm just glad that Kurogiri can't disobey me, since master had bound him to both of us via blood, so only master blood can override my command, since his blood was put on higher priority list. Though the doors as he went through thoughts of the doctor, as he kept working. So at the Yagi's home, now while dark forces were gathering and plotting, and Koyagi was sitting in her son's room where it had been unchanged for years. She could never bring herself to change the room, nor could All Might. All Might had always lived with so much regret when he realized what he had done to Izuku. He promised himself that he would never treat a quirkless child like how his father treated him, and ended up doing it. He ended up just like the man that he was always disgusted with during the past. However, he could only promise himself now to improve and hope that he could earn forgiveness from Izuku one day, once they found him, even though he didn't feel like he deserved forgiveness. Inko had pulled back from the public eye a lot more and spent a lot of her time on rescue missions more than anything else, in hopes of somehow finding Izuku on a mission. She also started doing charity work for quirkless children, which people understood due to her having had a quirkless child, and though get it out of redemption, since she knew these children most likely went through some similar to her son, so she wanted to help them as much as she could so they had a better life than they would have had previously. Though unknown to the youngest, time was only continuing down until the day that the past met a present, since Sir Nightai and the other involved in the case knew that Izuku Midoriya was going to be found most likely in the first year of Izumi's time at UA due to his vision, but they didn't know if he was going to be found dead or alive due to the tone of the vision, so they could only prepare for it and prepare for any fallout and hope the worst outcome hadn't happened. And Nizu's view, the worst outcome was Izuku becoming a villain who came back to seek revenge, since it will destabilize Japan hero system to learn that All Might's son became a villain due to the family's actions that had gotten covered up, which only made it worse since Nizu, in Nizu's point of view. Nizu believed the issue should have been revealed to the public years ago, since it would have allowed the public to recover from them with time while All Might redeemed himself in their eyes. But Izuku's comes back with visions, then it's most likely over for the hero system. So years have passed and Izuku Midoriya was now slightly over 12 years old. Izuku has also started to figure out his feels for Stella. And guys, by the way, I'm sorry for any background noise if you can hear anything, okay? So as I said, Izuku has also started to figure out his feeling for Stella and had approached his father about so-called issue. That is how Izuku found himself in his father's office back at the house. Izuku hardly came into the room since it was his father's office and there wasn't much a need to enter the room since he had his own private office if he ever did any business work at the home as well, since he has gotten more heavily involved in the business as the year passed. Izuku has grown up quite well and has also recently obtained his first PhD in Quark Science from Columbia University, which was the 10th ranked university in the world and 3rd ranked in the United States. Izuku had started to work on another PhD, wasn't putting a heavy focus on it as he did the first one. He was getting PhD in business management since Izuku was going to run the entire business one day. He decided he should just get the degree now instead of later on. However, back to the reason why Izuku was sitting in his father's office and was nervous, Miss Hisashi felt like he had an idea of why his son was nervous and was in his office, but he decided to let his son confirm his thoughts first before speaking to avoid potential unneeded mess if he was wrong. So, son, you said you had something you wanted to talk about and that you need advice on, Hisashi asked as he moved them both to chairs near the window for more comfortable sitting instead of it being more formal of sitting across the desk from each other. Izuku nodded his head and took his time to speak. Hisashi looked over to his son and just let him take his time. He's more or less calmed down on the constant changing of the hair color due to Stella, since she liked looking at him with green hair and eyes so much he would always keep it green, and had added this streaks of white into his hair, which Stella honestly found cute in her opinion, which would always make Izuku blushing mess, though Izuku did leave the eye color alone since it was hard to make them two colors in the same time, and he found it weird to have one color of each eye. Hisashi thought as he looked at his son over waiting for him to speak his thoughts soon, though thought his wait was over as Izuku finally spoke up. How do I deal with confessing my feelings to a girl, Izuku asked, and Hisashi smiled since he was right on the money of what issue it was. Okay, I had a feeling it was going to be this topic. First, we will need to also have a conversation about the birds and bees. I know you likely already know, but I need to cover my bases. Second, indeed, how to confess your feelings. Hisashi said as he nodded his head and thought it over. For me, I just outright said it's your mother, even though she turned to be a bee later on. But moving on to Stella, Hisashi said, and Izuku waved his hand and tried to deny it was Stella, but Hisashi shook his head. Please, Izuku, neither myself nor Vermilions are blind to you and Stella's little tango around each other over the years. We're surprised at least this long in all honesty. Now, you can just outright confess or try to be a bit romantic about it. I suggest making a gift or something to make it romantic. Maybe even taking her back to the place you both met and then confessing there could be an idea, Hisashi said, and Izuku nodded his head soon. They kept talking for about half an hour of ideas and how Izuku could go about it. Now, we need to talk about the birds and bees. I know you don't want to do it, but I got some warnings to give you about some things. First, if you're going to have, sexual relations at any point, then be safe about it. It would rather not have grandchild with you still being 12 years old, so wait until you're 15 or something. Hisashi said, and Izuku gave him a question look. Hisashi shrugged and spoke. Remember, time and age are more or less novel concepts. I'm over 200 years old, remember. You also have to take an anti-aging quirk already, but it have deactivated right now, so you don't really have to worry about the age either in the future. I just don't want you to make making a kid yourself until you're a bit older, and Stella also need to grow up. Now, on the topic of anti-aging quirk and Stella, Hisashi said, and Izuku nodded, eyes widened in realization. He never thought about it until the moment, but he realized Stella will die and he will outlive her by centuries. That thought made him so sad and heartbroken. I can see where your thoughts are going and they are real concern, but remember that your quirk is. You can copy quirks, give them, combine them, and take them make a copy of the anti-aging quirk and her one in a few years at an age that she will since she won't be able to turn it off like you, or I could use our main quirk. I've shown you how to go about inserting a second quirk in a person, since we did this for recent members of a board that has become seniors member. If you rushed the process, it could hurt their brains and bodies, causing the brain damage. As such, you need peace and quiet, and to take as long as the process requires for their body to accept it. I've done it multiple times with the senior members and others close to me. I even done it once before in the past long ago. Another man that had died, but one of his my unique quirks allowed him to live again, since I made him into a new entity which I called Kurogiri. I did this by reviving him in a sense and adding a new quirk into his body that healed him but also granted him a rapping ability. He never did regain his memories though, which I had hoped for since he died protecting children. It had happened right after you were born as well, and that's why I did what I did, since I felt the question of what if they were you. Though I don't know what happened to him, since I had encountered All Might soon after that, so I lost him. And even geolocation can't find him due to his quirk and the fact that he's really two people in one due to his appearance. I did find a quirk that could grant his memories back, but I've never found him. Hisashi stated and explained how the process worked more carefully, since Izuku could give Stella a quirk to make her age really slowly, so they could enjoy the centuries together in future, since Hisashi believed the two of them were made for each other, since Stella would always ground Izuku whenever he was troubled, and Izuku would always care for Stella for anything she needed, even if she didn't ask for like something. Izuku nodded his head and took copy of memory quirk, so if he ever ran into the so-called Kurogiri, then Izuku could give the man his memories back, so if he ever wanted to go back to the old life he could, since Hisashi said he was intelligent entity but lacked the purpose, so he wasn't going what he was he wasn't knowing what he was doing. So nowadays, since he should have free will unless something happened that he didn't think of, then they were back on the topic of him and Scylla. Izuku was once again being embarrassed by his father due to the topics they were talking about, but soon it came to an end and Izuku had a good idea of what he wanted to do. A few weeks passed and Hisashi and Izuku were doing their normal training. Izuku had been taught almost everything he will need to know to be a hero, from laws, how to treat injuries, how to calm people down, and so forth. Hisashi decided it was time for Izuku to try out for the hero exam, but that also meant that the hero commotion would request Izuku to enter their special agent program, which Hisashi was unsure of Izuku would accept, since it would increase his likelihood of him killing someone. Hisashi decided to sit Izuku down after the training and explain the entire program and what would likely happen if he got his license early. So from what you told me is that the hero system is more complex than most believe it's be. The world has a hero system that operates outside of most countries. Since the United nation operate the so-called special agent heroes, Izuku asked, and Hisashi nodded his head. Well, that is a lot of power in the United Nations hand, isn't it? Izuku said, and Hisashi shrugged. Not really, since there are limited numbers of special ranked heroes that ranked heroes that can or are around, since the government knows it gives these heroes, the UN, more power. The special agents still need to report to their own country a lot of time, but the UN can request them for missions. The special agents also need to be very powerful as well, which limit the number of them, since the countries don't want to look like fools if their agents die on the first missions, since they weren't really up to standards. As such, there are only around 100 or so special agents in the entire world, which is very limited, but again, they are extremely powerful people that will give All Might a hard time, Hisashi said, and Izuku asked if they would give him a hard time as well. Hisashi shook his head. In actual fight, then not really. All Might caught me off guard that day since I was on my way home. I've also gained a lot of more quirks since then and wouldn't underestimate him as I did. There's a reason all 7 before he died, which sadly does include your grandmother Nana Shimura Sori, Hisashi said, and Izuku shrugged. He never met her, so he wasn't attached, and if she was anything like Inko, then well, Izuku wouldn't complain about her being dead. Izuku did mention that it was weird of his father to marry the daughter of a person that he killed. I didn't know. She went by Aizawa at that time since she was adopted. Nana Shimura gave her away with her son since she didn't want me touching them. I got to admit, I might have back then with the mental state I had, Hisashi said, and Izuku rolled his eyes. So that actually bring up a question. Did she ever find out? Because that would explain why they neglected me and allowed Izumi to act the way she did toward me, Izuku asked, and Hisashi froze. He thought over it, but he shook his head. No, unlikely that she knows. Like Hisashi said, and he was confident that Inko never found out. Well, that's worst. It would be one thing if she did it with that in mind, but it's worse that she didn't know and still did what she did, Izuku said with a frown. They realized they got off topic a lot and moved back into the topic of special agent program. Anyway, with your quirk which grants you the path of always growing stronger, I'm 100% sure that the president of the commotion will request you to join the program, since he knew or knows about our quirks and your desire to be a hero, especially once that avoids the public spotlight. most of the time, since special agents tend to operate in the shadows most of the time. This means you have higher chance of killing people as required by the mission, since villains might be deemed too big of the threat to keep alive, since they will just cause death and distraction if they ever escaped again. And the president presented the chance. These tend to be the type of villains the special agent deal with most when requested by the UN. So I need to warn you about it, and you need to decide if you will accept their request or not, Hisashi said. And Izuku said they're thinking over it. He knew that he would likely have to kill as a hero, since hell, even All Might tried to kill his father. So if the so-called symbol of peace has done it, then many other heroes have done it as well. I think I might accept it, since it will help keep me in the dark more. It will also present chances to get in far more powerful perks to the stockpile as well, since I can be deterring force against powerful villains from returning if they lack a quirk to do their major crimes with, Izuku said. And Hisashi nodded his head, knowing this was likely the case. Hisashi then told Izuku that he would request the hero exam to be set up in the next few months, so they should prepare for it. Izuku also had to confess to Sella as well. With that, I'm gonna end this part, and I'm gonna wait until we get to 10k to drop probably a 1 hour or long part of this what if. With that, I'm gonna explain a little bit of the Tokyo Revenger what if. I'm still writing the script for it. I'm in 3k words on the script. I wanted to get to 10k or more so I can record it, and I might do a bit of collab with other YouTubers to voice over it. So yeah, and with that, I hope you enjoyed this part. Stay home, stay safe, wash your hand, and spend the time with the most precious people you like. And also don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm to spread out and to reach more people. And thank to everyone who subscribed. We are almost 10k, we are 30 or 40 subscribers away from our goal before this year. And if we get to 10k, we might try to get to 15k. With that, see you next video. Peace out. Bye bye.